Maybe I'm just being dramatic. Maybe this isn't some big mystery, but maybe, just maybe, I was sharing the woods with something unexplainable. We're gonna head back to the spot where I had seen this thing, but first I want to give you all a little backstory to it. So this trail you've all come to see me on at one point or another is a fairly unused trail. In my time of making videos on here, I've only ever seen people on here about 3 times. It's why I chose to go to this trail to make my videos, so I don't have to interrupt people or be bothersome to anyone just wanting to enjoy nature. I decided to go out here on a walk to just look at the area and see what there was. So I started walking and I got my phone, a pocket knife, and I'm wearing gym shorts. I honestly wasn't planning on doing anything but walking in, walking out, and calling it a day. So as I'm walking, I look down and I see this unusual print. And I looked at it and realized I had no idea what this thing was. And I'm not a tracker by any means, but I figured if this was an animal, then let's see which direction it went. So I looked nearby and I didn't see anything around it. But before I started to continue walking and go about my business, I saw another print, except it was about 4 or 5 feet apart from each other. And as an example of what that means, I'm about 6 feet tall, a little taller with the boots, and my stride is probably about 1.5 to 2 feet apart. So I saw the first one, then the second one, and realized that either this was a very tall animal with a very long stride, or this was an animal that was running away at full speed or towards something at full speed. So I figured maybe I missed a couple of prints in between these two, you know, maybe this creature wasn't as big as I thought it was, and it just looks like that because I'm missing a couple of steps. So I looked around and carefully brushed away the leaves, and I didn't find any other missing tracks. But as I walked along, I found a third and a fourth print. Each one was just as far from the other as the first was from the second. I looked carefully, trying to rationalize how big or small this creature actually was, and I never found any print between these 4. Whatever that was out there had taken these 4 extremely large steps, one after another, or it was running incredibly fast. I myself am about 6 feet tall, and if I was running at full speed, I'd probably be able to match the gait. And at this point, I was getting kind of nervous because even if this was just a 3-toed wolf or a coyote or even a deer, because remember, I had no idea what these things belonged to at that time. I just knew that I was sharing the forest with something large, with a very large gait, and most likely some very large claws. And all I had was a pocket knife at the time. So I put my knife next to the print, took this picture, and began calmly walking out of the woods. I knew that if I panicked and ran away, and if it was watching me, then this most likely would have caused its predator reflex and it would have chased me. So I couldn't act like a prey animal because predators instinctually chase running people. After I got back home, I started to do some research on 3-toed animals in Georgia, and also on dog, wolf, coyote, bear, and deer tracks. And no matter how you cut it, none of these prints match what I saw in the woods that day. And the only 3-toed animal native to Georgia is a beaver. These are beaver tracks, and this is nowhere near what I saw. This was just the first strange thing I encountered on this trail, but we're actually going to jump ahead after the odd thing I saw to a much shorter story, but I feel is still relevant. Now, a long time after I saw these tracks, I was out here with my old recording buddy Connor, and we were finishing up a video when we stopped to talk for just a little bit. And then I told him to stand still and be quiet, just sniff the air. He thought it was a little funny, but he thought I had just ripped one and was just trying to get him to smell it, but I wasn't laughing. I distinctively smelled the smell of urine. And I asked him if he smelled it too, to which he replied, yes. This was weird because we were standing still talking the entire time, and then this smell just came over us out of nowhere. Now, nothing happened afterwards, but this always kind of struck me as incredibly odd because we looked around Didn't see any animals, squirrels, raccoons, nothing. And the smell just came and we went. Before I get to this last part, I just want to add, at one point, I was out here alone making another video when I started to hear knocking from two different parts in the woods. It was almost rhythmic, but once I turned around and looked around, it completely stopped. Maybe it was woodpeckers or a coincidence, but still, it was something I thought was really odd. This third and final story happened after the tracks, but before the smell. And to this day, I still have no idea what I saw. I'd like to say I saw a Bigfoot or a Pukwudgie to give an identity to this thing, but whatever it was could have very well been an albino otter or swan or something else entirely. Now, this had happened months after the unusual track and the smell of urine, but I assume that whatever must have been on the trail in the woods that day must probably be gone. But anyway, I had gone out in the woods, and this is after I'd seen the track, but before that smell of urine. But after this time, I had always carried protection. So I decided to go on a run and get some exercise. And I had my earbuds in, I was going at a decent pace, and I was watching the woods on my left and my right. There wasn't anything strange happening. Nothing odd was going on. And I was making my way deeper and deeper into the trail. Now, I finally got to the deepest part of the trail where we are now when I had heard something moving in the brush. So I looked off towards my right, left now, right then. And there was this creature that was all white. Whatever it was standing up, either on its hind legs or on two legs, but I really can't say. I only saw it for a second at the most. It was all white, around waist high to chest high, and it dove into the water. And I'm assuming it did this to avoid contact with me. Again, I'm being completely candid and honest about this. It could have been an albino otter, because otters do live here in Georgia and they do stay on their feet. It could have been a swan that came from some other place and just jumped into the water, and I just didn't see it. But I saw this thing, whatever it was, and I stood there for about 5 to 10 seconds, and I started to get concerned for my safety because I just didn't know what this was. And I made like a chip and dipped. Now, I've been on this trail for several years, and I've used it for my YouTube channel for a really long time, and I've never seen an otter out here. I've never heard of an otter attack. Now, I have seen deer, but deer don't dive into water. So whatever this was, I just have no explanation for it. I wish that I could give you a name, but it's even got me stumped. And being 100% honest about this whole thing, I have no idea if this was something normal or unnatural. And if these incidents all happened at separate areas at separate times, it wouldn't be that odd. There's raccoons in the forests. Maybe that's what the urine smell was. Other people use this trail, so maybe someone was wearing cleats and running through the forest. There's all sorts of animals in the woods of Georgia, and otters are one of them. So you see, one of these things could be explained away, but when you combine the unusual tracks with the unusual smell of urine, along with the odd white thing that jumped into the water, I don't know. I honestly have no clue. All I can say for sure is that until I find whatever it was that was out here, whether it was a coyote, a bear, a deer, an otter, a goose, swan, or something I would regret finding maybe, this will forever be a mystery. And where mystery lies, adventure awaits.